So I found this picture on the internet and I thought it was quite interesting. Right here on the left, we have Irish Iberian, and to the right, we have Anglo Teutonic. And then we see Mr. Kanye West and we see Mr. Jay-Z. So now we go to the book Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1 by David McRitchie, a Caucasian scholar. So now we're on page 45, the British Iberians. So it says the Iberians are styled swarthy and curly haired. The word swarthy is rather classic for all through literally swartz, which means black, yet it is taken, I fancy, to mean something not quite so dark, and that's his opinion, as the color of a Negro in its usual acception. Perhaps the distinction does not exist, but at any rate, if the small dark Highlander and the black Celts to the west of the Shannon be assumed to be the descendants of Iberians, it may be fairly argued that with so much intermixture with fairer races, fair could also mean beautiful, and the complexion of the face and so forth. We have to look up in the Webster's 1828 dictionary, because when people think fair, they think of light skin, but that's not always the case. Okay, during the last 2,000 years, the stock must now be lighter skinned than then, and its representatives of the first century must have been actually as black as Negroes. Thus, the Negritos of Huxley, the owners of such skulls as those found in Caithness, may have been aligned to the ancient Iberians. That the wild tribes of Ireland were black men is hinted by the fact that a wild Irishman is in Gaelic a black Irishman. Okay, so now we go to this book, The Origin of the Anglo-Saxon Race, Tribal Origin of the Old English People. So now we're on page 73, where in early cemeteries, Saxon and Anglan skulls have been found representing characteristics which are clearly not of the Teutonic type. The early British inhabitants of the Bronze Age has usually been called in as ancestor. The typical old Teutonic skull is dolichocephalic, the skull of the British people of the Bronze Age in brachycephalic. The reference that there was a fusion of race between the Saxons and Angles and the people descending from the men of the Bronze Age is easily drawn. Now, as we can see, this is a dolichocephalic Negro skull. We can see the earliest inhabitants of Europe were Negroes. They inhabited Europe first. Okay, the Negro races. And so at the bottom, this makes more sense. So now we know it's talking about the ancient or Old Saxon, which were so-called black people, which had the skulls of dolichocephalic, and they were brunette in color.